1 o'clock in Manila time. Okay, so is this okay to start, everyone? Mm. Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the first webinar of this our seminar, hosted by Future Earth Asia Regional Committee. We hope this platform will serve as useful to share information and insight among our community members. And this aim of this webinar is to provide a space for sharing update and fostering connection between the national committees in our region. So for today's session, we have our topics that we believe it is important for our community. Its title, System Thinkings for System Goals, Systematic Goals, Why Frameworks and Scales Matter, and it will be presented by our colleague from Future Earth Philippine. Without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. And please welcome Doi from Future Earth Philippine. Doi, over to you.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you, Rico. So we are the guinea pigs. We are initiating this series of webinars, and we're happy to do that. So we will be sharing some of the insights and information and projects that we are doing in the Philippines. And we have two speakers with us today. We have Dr. Lourdes Cruz, and we have Dr. Mahar Mangahas. I'm sorry, Mahar Lagmay. I'm sorry. So, as Rico said, our title is Systems Thinking for Systemic Goals, Why Frameworks and Scales Matter. And this is what the main idea that we've been doing in our work in Future Earth Philippines. So our first speaker will be Dr. Lourdes Cruz, who will be speaking on the FE Philippines SDG Strategic Linkage Framework for the Philippine context. Dr. Cruz is the convener of Future Earth Philippines. She is our national scientist, past president of the National Research Council of the Philippines, and an academician of the National Academy of Science and Technology. So let me give you Dr. Cruz. I will introduce Dr. Lagmay a little bit later before she speaks. Okay.
Okay. Let me share. I'm just trying to share my screen. Let me introduce. Sorry, I'll just. Sorry, I had to bring out the phone. So I'm going to talk about the strategic linkage framework for SDGs as we consider them for the Philippines. Before that, let me introduce again the Future Earth Philippines. We were established in 2017 as a collective effort by a group of scientists from the academe and individuals from the business sector and civil society. And here are the logos of the academic institutions and DOST agencies, institutes that joined us in this effort. The initiative was driven by concerns over the urgent ecological issues confronting the nation. Since the early 1960s, the Philippines has been experiencing an ecological deficit marked by a steady decrease in biocapacity and an alarming increase in ecological footprint. Future Earth Philippines is currently advancing an initiative that is focused on promoting sustainability, resilience, and inclusive development, and aligning itself with the Global Future Earth Network and Future Earth Asia to further its goals and objectives in these areas.
Luli, can you go into presentation mode?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we have organized workshops with the goal of convening diverse stakeholders, as we are now doing for the problem in Central Luzon, the big problem of flooding, of the worsening and widening and more frequent flooding in Central Luzon. And so we have convened and consulted the academe, NGOs, communities, the local government units, national government agencies, private enterprises to facilitate collaboration, communication, and collective action towards addressing pressing ecological challenges and promoting sustainability in the Philippines. The workshops are designed to cultivate an appreciation of the interrelation of the 17 SDGs and to formulate projects that are transdisciplinary and inclusive. Initially, multiple thematic clusters were formed to delineate the boundaries of their specific focal topics and challenges, as well as to identify the relevant SDGs. So, in striving to amalgamate disciplinary and sector-specific endeavors, numerous iterations were undertaken. I think Doy and I, our favorite SDG representation is the wedding cake representation of the Swedish group from the Resilience, the Resilience Institute. And because it emphasizes the need for a healthy biosphere. But for us, in striving to amalgamate disciplinary and sector-specific endeavors, we had numerous iterations that leading this FEP community to acknowledge the necessity for an overarching framework as exemplified by this diagram here, showing the SDG strategic linkage for sustainable cities and communities. This was deemed essential for comprehending the interplay among the diverse SDGs. So the diagram shows the linkage of 4 identified cross-cutting SDGs as guiding principles. Here's the guiding principles. So we categorized the SDGs into 3, the guiding principles, the aspirations, and interventions. So for us, the guiding principles, we have SDG 5, gender equality, SDG 10 on reduced inequalities, SDG 16 for peace, justice, and strong institutions, and SDG 17, partnerships for the goals. We look at this as the guiding principles that are cross-cutting that we need to consider when we are working on specific SDGs. And also, the diagram shows that we need, at least in the Philippine setting, we need interventions for the country to be able to achieve the SDGs. And we think education is the most important. And unfortunately, the Philippines is not progressing in terms of the SDG 4, related to quality education. And the only SDG where we are supposed to be improving at a rate that will be enough for us to achieve this SDG 13 by 2030 is climate action. So we really need to strengthen our quality education. And then we have, as interventions, we need the SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, SDG 9, industry innovation and infrastructure, to sort of improve the Philippine economy. And of course, SDG 13 on climate action, and SDG 12 is sustainable consumption and production. The SDG 12 is quite a concern of many here, and I'm saying that it's a popular SDG because it is something where even the children can participate in trying to achieve the SDGs. And then in this under aspirations, for us, we want, of course, our focus is having sustainable cities and communities. And on the left side are those that pertain to, the social concerns. And for us to achieve these no poverty, zero hunger, and good health and well-being, we, of course, need decent work and economic growth. And so with that, SDG 8, that will lead to no poverty, and then zero hunger and good health and well-being. And on the right side are those that are related to environment, related to the biosphere, clean water and sanitation, life below water, and life on land. We say that quality education is very important because it serves as the cornerstone for achieving the rest of the SDGs. High quality education, continuous learning, and continuous learning provide individuals with the skills and abilities necessary to secure decent employment, pursue entrepreneurial endeavors, and access higher income opportunity. Okay, and so it is essential for achieving the other SDGs as it imparts the fundamental knowledge and skills, attitudes, and values needed for individuals to prosper and actively contribute to sustainable development. So education plays a pivotal role in nurturing a generation of environmentally aware citizens who are capable of tackling challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, population and resource depletion. High-quality education has the power to catalyze positive societal change, nurture inclusive and resilient communities, and propel the shared goal of a fair, equitable, and sustainable global landscape. And we think the Philippines must prioritize investments in education, but unfortunately, the government investment in education is still low, below the recommended level suggested by UNESCO and OECD. And so now I want to, I want Dr. Doy Romero will now continue on and explain more these SDG interactions that we are working on. Doy?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cruz. Before I add some of the details of our strategic framework, can I ask you to look at the link that you have in your chat box? There is a link there that will bring you to this particular diagram here.
Yes. Doy?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was cut off. So I'm trying to show our screen, which is the whiteboard. So there is a whiteboard that we are showing, this one. Okay, so you can please write your comments and your questions. You have a link there in your chat box. You click on it and you will be able to access this particular pink whiteboard where you can write your questions, comments, and suggestions. You can already do that after hearing Dr. Cruz, and before we go to the rest, you can start uh, experimenting a little bit. This is perhaps a new innovation for some of you, but it will help us get a view of all of the questions, comments, and suggestions. This will also help our speakers to answer and consolidate the questions and therefore try to answer all of them. Okay, so let me now go to what I need to present. And I wanted to present the idea that, well, Dr. Cruz gave us a Dr. Cruz gave us a diagram earlier showing the interlinkages of the SDGs. The reason why we wanted to do this is because, well, the SDGs are a comprehensive systemic set of goals for the present and future generations. But many well-meaning nations and organizations grapple with the problem of programming and implementation, not to mention the marshaling of resources and commitments of stakeholders at various levels. Where to start with the greatest chain reaction and complementation across the SDGs is crucial to establishing an anchor for the whole SDG journey. So Future Earth Philippines has taken an initiative to help the Philippine SDG community to focus on this anchor point and how it can marshal the collective energy of the community to best achieve the whole system of SDG goals. Now, if such a sequential and systemic framework could be formulated, it could enable multiple organizations and institutions to carve out their respective strategic pathways. That, taken together, constitutes a theater of action approach to the achievement of the SDGs. So in this diagram, which is another version of the diagram that Dr. Cruz showed you, we still have the same elements. We have the guiding principles here. We have the societal aspirations here. We call this the global aspirations: clean water and sanitation, life below water, and so on. But we think that sustainable cities and communities should be the center, because this is the geospatial platform on which all of these SDGs need to be operationalized. And the SDG action at other levels, at other layers, are actually alignments and orchestrations of what is happening on the ground. And here we identify the specific interventions that need to be done. So what this diagram does is to show us that there are dyadic relationships between these SDGs, and that you can actually identify a string of these relationships, like you might want to do a 15, 19, and so on. But the idea that an organization or institution can identify a link across these SDGs and act on them on the ground in cities is important, because then it allows people to work on the same diagram or idea, but they know that they are doing specialized labor. So that's the idea why we are now beginning to do this. Actually, this kind of method of generating aligned mobilization, we're doing that in Pampanga and Bulacan, where we are helping the people visualize similarly the whole enterprise using problem trees and objective trees. So that's just an addition to what Dr. Cruz was showing us. Okay, so let me now call on Dr. Lagmay to give us his presentation. And well, Dr. Lagmay is director of the Resilience Institute, University of the Philippines, and he's also an academician, National Academy of Science and Technology. And if Dr. Cruz gave us a framework, Dr. Lagmay will now talk about landscape scale perspectives for local SDG problem solving in the Philippines, giving us the trying to sell the big picture as a way of providing the overall context for ground level action. So, Dr. Lagmay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doy. Basically, my talk will be really promoting what we have been doing at the University of the Philippines, the role of the universities in trying to help attain the sustainable development goals at local level, and also the integration of the efforts of Future Earth Philippines with the efforts of the University of the Philippines, where the university where I'm affiliated with. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Okay, just a minute. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, if you can put it on presentation mode now, will be good.
Yes. Okay, the title will be about promoting landscape scale perspectives for local SDG problem solving in the Philippines. So basically, as I've said earlier, we will be talking about what we have been doing here in the country. Now, okay. So just as a backgrounder, landscape scale means linking people and place for a holistic understanding of the landscape. The view of the landscape is much more than visual and aesthetic. There are other factors involved. The result of the complex interaction of natural factors is landscape scale planning, because there's geology, there's soils, there's biodiversity, cultural factors, land use, settlement, and perceptual and aesthetic qualities. And we need to link past with present and representing a manifestation of the evolution of physical processes and human intervention, as it recognizes that landscape is dynamic and has evolved and will continue to change. And everywhere, covering all landscapes, not just the special designated and protected areas, but equally our ordinary and everyday places. Landscape scale means it's perceived by people and therefore representing multiple values, including both tangible and intangible ones. And it exists at any scale, from large tracts of land, such as mountain ranges, to small locally important spaces, such as parks and streetscapes. And in the context of resilience, in the context of a changing world in terms of climate, there's what is called as the ecosystems-based adaptation strategies, because climate change will put pressure on ecosystems, and in turn, have an effect on ecosystem services that again in turn would affect people. And therefore people will have to respond accordingly so that there will be ecosystems-based adaptation that can also have an effect on climate change mitigation. And with all of these other adaptation measures, we'll be able to support the ecosystem, which will in turn have a favorable effect on ecosystem services that will in turn benefit the people. So there's this diagram here about ecosystems-based adaptation as conceptualized, as written in the image source. Now, ecosystems-based approaches to climate change adaptation include approaches that involve a wide range of ecosystem management activities to increase the resilience and reduce the vulnerability of people and the environment to climate change. And when we talk about ecosystems-based resilience or adaptation, we talk about plans that are involved, uh, that are crafted rather in communities or by communities in different types of environments, from uplands to the marine, coastal and marine environment. And as you can see, from forest to upland and lowland and coastal and marine environments, they're all integrated, especially at the watershed scale. And there are a lot of plans that are involved. In the Philippines, there are many agencies that are involved in crafting plans for communities, such as the Housing Board, the DNR, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Agrarian Reform, and so on, as listed in the diagram. And all of these plans must be risk-informed and science-based. I forgot to put that there. In terms of plans, we have listed the following, such as Forest Land Use Plan, the Ancestral Domain Sustainable Development Plan, the Integrated Ecosystems Management Plan, Agrarian Reform Community Plans, Barangay Action Plan. Barangay means village, Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Plan, the Infrastructure Plan, Coastal Fisheries, and a lot of other plans. There are more than 30 plans that are required by government for local government units to craft. And this is particularly important in the Philippines because we are in the typhoon belt. And all of these impacts of severe weather, like floods and landslides, have a severe effect in the growth and development of our economy. It hampers the growth and development of the community, hampering it to attain the sustainable development goals. It's not just the severe weather events, it's also the Philippines being in the Pacific Ring of Fire like Japan. And all of these earthquake hazards impact the growth and development of our country. When we say risk-informed, we actually talk about hazard scenarios or hazard impacts that go beyond the historical worst-case scenario, or that go beyond the historical record. We talk about climate change scenarios, the representative concentration pathways. Now they call it a different term. And all of these scenarios are different scenarios depending on the amount of CO2 that we would emit into the atmosphere. And all of those can be translated in terms of hazards, and the hazards need to be considered in the planning process. So for example, in the evacuation plan, in creating an evacuation plan, we cannot have a map like this and just base our plans on the knowledge of the people, because here in this example, we asked them where to put the evacuation center. They said that that is the best place. They have never experienced floods happening there. So when they put the evacuation center there and there are floods that happen that are bigger than what they have experienced, we have actually set up that evacuation center as a place where people could die. So that is why disasters happen. We fail to anticipate the bigger events than than what we have experienced. Planning involves not just the evacuation centers. It also must plan. We also must plan across all sectors. The COVID pandemic taught us that it was not just the health sector that was affected by the biohazard, by the virus. Other sectors like agriculture, water, health, forestry, biodiversity, energy, education, and so on were affected by COVID-19. It will be the same for other hazards, for other natural hazards, most especially for the adverse climate change impacts. And when we make plans, it must have content. It must contain projects, programs, and activities that are risk-informed. So for example, you build resilient socialized housing projects. That's for the settlement. You build flood management and control projects that anticipate the bigger events. We have construction of rainwater facilities. It may be also in the form of climate field schools. Now, the University of the Philippines, particularly the University of the Philippines Resilience Institute, has been helping local government units in the Philippines to create the different sorts of plans: zoning ordinance, climate change plans, public service plans, comprehensive land use plans. And as I said, there are more than 30 plans. And it's important that all of the science, all of the knowledge that we have in the universities cascade also as main content in the crafting of plans of the local government units. In our experience, the people in the provinces, in the municipalities are all hungry for knowledge. And right now, the work that we have done is being used by 59.7% of local government units. These are hazard maps that we have created. And local government units have been using these high-resolution hazard maps according to the UNDP report of 2022. And the goal really is to co-create knowledge, local knowledge that can be generated and mainstreamed into the plans, the local development plans of the area, of the community. The idea being it was a senator who asked me to do this, by the way. So the idea is to capacitate and co-create knowledge. The 12 higher education institutions would capacitate and teach other state universities and colleges, or SUCs, so that when they get trained, they would be generating scientific research that would eventually cascade into the municipalities or cities in their local area. Now, it is part of the plan of the new president of the Philippines, which is to convert the University of the Philippines into the University of the People, because we have a special type of mandate, which is public service. So what we want to do is, from a public service university, be able to empower key actors across all sectors, experts in the different sectors, to be able to mainstream all of their knowledge into the crafting of plans so that we can attain the sustainable, disaster resilient, and economically progressive LGU vision. This is basically the SDGs that we want to attain with good development plans. And to do that, we can help the local government units craft their development plans and also capacitate and enhance with partner SUCs, which is very critical, because the state universities and colleges, all 114 of them, I believe, are spread all over the country. And we need to do scientific research to be used as content of the plans. I mean, for example, if you have projects, activities, it must be science-based. If it is an adaptation measure for agriculture, it must be locally researched and not coming from research from abroad. So that is very important, we think. And to do all of this research and capacity building, there's this funding available coming from the law of the country, which is Republic Act 101/21, which has this what we call as Local Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund, which is the LDRRMF. And when we calculated it, it is replenished on a yearly basis with the amount of about 35 billion pesos a year. And that can be maximized and be used for scientific research, for incorporation and mainstreaming into the development plans of the local government units. And all of these other mediator variables can be input. There's knowledge building, capacity building, resources. All of these can be part of the larger framework to make the public service, the UP as a public service university, and the other SUC, state universities and colleges, to be relevant in the sustainable development goal efforts of the country. That amount that I talked about, which is 35 billion pesos a year, which is not a small amount, is called as the IRA, Internal Revenue Allotment. It's 5%, and 70% of that, 5% of the IRA can go to the planning process and scientific research. And again, it's about, if you calculate that, it's about 35 billion pesos a year. And in the joint memorandum agreement of the Department of Budget Management and the Department of Interior and Local Government, the utilization of this LDRRM fund can be for disaster prevention and disaster mitigation. In particular, the conduct of disaster risk reduction and management research, conduct of risk assessments, comprehensive land use programs, comprehensive development programs, and so on and so forth. These are the things that I've just been talking about, which can be used. It's 1 trillion pesos, but 70% of that 5% is what I was talking about. We have a lot of experience in doing this. There's a local university counterpart of the comprehensive land use plans being crafted by the local government units. It's called the LUDIP. The campuses of the universities are communities themselves, and they should be planned like the local like the cities and municipalities. So we've trained already about 25 state universities and colleges, and we want to expand that. We have integrated the talks given by Future Earth Philippines, because these talks are viewed by the people from the cities and municipalities all over the country. So it's not just the Future Earth program. We also have the Philippine Academic Society for Climate and Disaster Resilience. They have talks, and we put it up in the website for use by the local government units. We had a Basics of Resilience course. Our launching was done early this year, and we had 11,000 enrollees from all over the country. And we want to continue this effort of teaching and educating Filipinos, not just for response, but also for prevention and mitigation, in particular planning of their development plans. And just to wrap the talk up, you might be wondering why I've been talking about development plans and sustainable development goals. I think that's well established. In Google Scholar, just make a simple search. You'll see that there's a very, very strong link between development plans, the national development plans, and SDGs. And localizing these plans need to be done. It's called localizing the sustainable development goals through development planning, which I think is very, very critical in developing our country, the Philippines, using the disaster and resilience platform and the funds that could be tapped from there to promote the science, to fund the research, and to mainstream that scientific research for risk-informed development plans. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay,
Joy?
thank you very much. So we have had two very good speakers talking about frameworks and scales as mechanisms for engaging our people, helping them help themselves in resolving the SDGs. Okay, so please, we're talking to our colleagues in the audience. If you can please write down your comments and questions here, but you can also, by the way, also ask directly. If you can just raise your hand, then we can call on you. But there are two questions here. Maybe Dr. Cruz, can you see the question? It says, can you please expound on the process taken in applying the SDG linkage framework for the cities you mentioned, Pampanga, etc.? Which stakeholders were involved and what were the outcomes?
I think that is for Ma'am Luli.
Yes, is Dr.
Yes,
Cruz
sorry.
with us? Yeah.
Yeah, I was muted. We have carried out several workshops, and we visited the flooded communities, then did consultation workshops with people from the local government units, communities, NGOs, some from entrepreneurs and community organizations. And so the approach was, since this is a wicked problem, so we, through DOI's guidance, the participants constructed a problem tree where everybody contributed their their inputs on analyzing the problem. And since this was a multi-scale holder consultation, so we had it came out to be a multidisciplinary analysis and inclusive analysis of what is happening. So inputs from the people, and the result was a very comprehensive problem tree, which is quite big. And some of those who saw the problem tree after the analysis were overwhelmed, of course. But if you are in the process, when this was developed, then you will understand, those involved will understand what was happening. And so the problem tree had identified the problem, and then there were the first level causes, second level, third level, fourth and fifth, and even sixth level causes. And the ultimate cause had something to do with the management by the local government and also the participation of the community. And then in the upper part of the problem tree are the consequences, and which again went to first level, second, third level, and fourth level. And so after that, we had meetings with the national Economic and Development Authority of that region and Department of Science Technology of the region, together with the other stakeholders. We've had 2 or 3 meetings with them. And then last 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the state universities and colleges, because we want the universities and colleges to be involved in trying to solve the problem, in coming up with a problem, with the solutions to the problem. So from the problem tree came out the objectives tree, and then the strategic pathways that a particular group may want to take. I think it's very involved So we had to go through several workshops, and we're still not finished with this. Maybe Doi can say something more. You're muted, Doi.
Yes, and while the SDGs are not mentioned in the problem tree, they are really behind the concepts that the people themselves use in solving their problems. For instance, you will not see poverty there, but you will see, for instance, the lack of livelihood opportunities and their inability to come up with the tools to help themselves get out of their problems. But the idea of the humongous comprehensive problem tree is to get everybody on the same page. We did not want them saying, this is my understanding, you have a different understanding. But our idea is that if you use systems thinking, all of the segments of the problem will get connected and everybody will accept the or have an understanding of the problem comprehensively across dimensions, across scales. So anyway, that's and it's an ongoing process. It is an iterative process. We've done several workshops already, but we are happy that we are now conversing and advising the Regional Development Council, which I think is an outcome that is very seldom reached by non-governmental organizations in dealing with government. Because in the Philippines, the lowest level is the barangay. Then you have the municipality, city, the province, and then you have the Regional Development Council, which encompasses several provinces belonging to a region. And in Central Luzon, we've been invited and we've been talking to the Regional Development Council. So I think that is really an outcome. We have a good process going, and we're happy. And we are also now, because of these things, we have got the attention of the universities and colleges in the area, and they have begun identifying what is it that we can do in solving this large problem. So they are now situating themselves in the problem tree and the objective tree. And when you are able to map where each one of them think they can contribute, we can see that the efforts are really complementary, and we can identify the gaps and we can identify the redundancies, but it's a good mechanism for creating collaborative effort going forward. Okay, now I think the next question is for Mahar. It says here, thanks for the great examples shared about providing science-based data for city plans, etc. Would you say that the plans developed from these processes are actually quote-unquote sustainable and more transformative than in the past? Are you able to monitor sustainability outcomes already? Can you give examples? Are efforts bearing fruits? Are there still gaps? So we'll ask Dr. Lagmay to answer that question.
Yeah. Yeah, the answer for that is very, very broad. But let me try. Let me try to answer that question in the sense that I think it's very important to realize that why we want to help the local government units craft their local development plans and other plans. There are more than 30 plans, is because we want it to be risk informed and at the same time as science-based as possible. And when the plans are crafted, that involves a lot of input from experts from the different sectors. In our experience, because we have experts from forestry, agriculture, health, etc., all of their expertise get incorporated into the plans. And not only that, there are projects, programs, and activities that are approved by in the vernacular, in the local language, it's called sanggunian. So that's the council of the local government unit that comes up with resolutions if necessary to be able to execute. They actually approve the projects, programs, and activities that were listed in the development plans of the local government unit. So in that sense, I would say that that is the best way to mainstream the knowledge that has been generated by experts from universities, and actually creating information and research that transforms into real knowledge because it is used by the community. And it is sustainable in the sense that it is actually the local government unit who is at the forefront of resilience efforts. They are the ones who are actually implementing it. And as we know, there is funding that goes along with all of these projects, programs, and activities, especially if there's the approval already by the Sanggunian. If we do this on a wider scale, so far we have done maybe 30 cities and municipalities over the span of 10 years. We realized that we can't do all 1,634 cities and municipalities of the country. But what I can say is that these cities and municipalities, especially the poor municipalities of the Yolanda affected areas that we have helped, have done pretty well in terms of having zero or near zero casualties for more than a decade now. So majority of those municipalities that we have helped have actually performed well in terms of the number of fatalities in these disasters over the past decade. And I would also like to emphasize that because of the mainstreaming of more science information into the planning process as well as the response efforts of the country, from fatalities averaging about 1,250 per year from 1986 to 2013, that was reduced to only 250, coming from 1,250 deaths per year for the period 2014 to 2023. So there was a significant reduction based on the EM.DAT database. And if we were to follow that counterfactual evidence, something was done to reduce it by an amount of about 1,000 deaths per year. However, in terms of the damage, the recalculated damage to infrastructure and agriculture, to assets, losses and damages, that has remained more or less the same since 1986, according to the EM.DAT database, which means that we have to work harder in terms of planning, because we want to build infrastructure and we want to put our assets in places that are out of harm's way, which we have not really done well for several decades. And because of technology and because of science, we can now identify those places, hazardous places, but more so identify the safest places for development that can be used by the communities. So I would say that compared to previous efforts, that is the most sustainable and most resilient action to take. Always science-based, risk-informed plans that translates into actual action. Thank you.
Okay, so far those are the only questions we have on our pink board. Those of you who would like to ask questions, you just please double click on any of these yellow note cards, and you will be able to put in your question. Of course, we are ready to ask questions orally. If you have them, we will answer them. We have only actually 3 minutes more. So, Rico, do we have time for another question, or do I turn this over now to you? Okay, so since we don't have any more questions, let me turn over the floor to Rico. And I understand that ARC would also want to give some announcements. So we would like to thank our two speakers, Dr. Cruz and Dr. Lagmay. We are all deeply involved with communities. We are happy that we are doing that. And we are bringing universities and colleges into the effort. In fact, we have organized a universities SDG action network. We have signed memoranda of agreements with pilot universities in Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and we would like to be able to enlist maybe 20 more universities and colleges within the year. So Rico, handing over to you the management of the webinar.
Thank you, Doi. Okay, before I close this webinar, and I will hand it over to Leah. Leah have some speech.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Mahar had his hand raised. So did you want to say something, Mahar, very quickly?
Yes, Ria. Before the start of the meeting, Ma'am Lourdes and Doy were talking, and we were actually proposing. Well, I was proposing that there must be something that or there could be something that we could do to promote science-based, risk-informed planning. And because Ma'am Luli is with the National Academy of Science and Technology, she is a national scientist. I'm part of the NAST as well. And NAST being an award giving body, we were thinking that in order to encourage local government units to be more science-based in their planning process, something similar to what I have discussed, to be anticipatory and to plan across all sectors, maybe an award to these local government units who practice such efforts can be made, not just given by the NAST or the University of the Philippines. Maybe we can combine or help each other. Maybe invite the ARC to be part of that award to promote such kind of effort. Because right now, there's a lot of development plans or crafting of these development plans and other plans which are just for compliance purposes only. And we want to make use of those funds that are available for crafting these plans to be science-based and risk-informed. So maybe, what we can do is to encourage these mayors, the administrators, to do such an effort, such a noble endeavor by getting them to have awards if they do so. Just as a suggestion, maybe make it more international so that the award can be more prestigious.
Right. Great, thanks. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. And well, on behalf of the Asia Region, Future Earth Asia Regional Committee, actually I see that our chair is here, but I understand that he is currently traveling or maybe driving, so he's not able to speak. But yeah, I think we could consider supporting that that initiative. But maybe just wanted to quickly just say thank you to the Philippines for, I think what you've shared is a real concrete framework, not just a framework, but an actual implementation or an actual example of how it is to use science to be able to generate the example that Mahar and Luli and Doy about using the knowledge from the scientific community and being able to really influence at the planning level, the local government level, and at different scales, even at the regional level. And I think I hope that some of the other national committees who are here, I see that Taipei, India, South Asia, Mongolia, and some of Korea and others are also here. I hope that it can be a learning experience, and we can exchange a bit more information about this. And so before I turn over to Rieko-san, I just really wanted to also maybe share a bit of kind of an announcement that we are really considering making a proposal so that the community can continue doing this science policy dialogues and advocating for the Future Earth community in the region to be able to really move towards being a bit more, shall we say, transformative and undertaking initiatives that will truly help transformations to sustainability. And so we ask the ARC members who are here, please watch out for some of the information that we're developing proposals for the ISC. I think maybe some of you have already mentioned it, but we'll set another date and time to discuss some of these things. And then we also have some sessions that we're organizing for SRI conference and other stuff. So we'd love to continue facilitating these regional collaborations as well. Anyway, thank you again, and Rieko-san, I give it back to you.
Thank you very much for dear, and thank you very much, Philippine National Committee member. As we conclude today's webinar, I would like to share some plan for our upcoming session. In the next few webinars, we will be hearing from the Future Earth National Committee of South Korea, Myanmar, Thailand, and Mongolia. To these national committees, could you please coordinate with us the schedule? We hope to have our next one in May. We appreciate your willingness to share your insights with us. And thank you so much for being with us today. Your participation adds value to these sessions, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Nice close to the webinar. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye-bye. Sayonara.
Thank you.